Hi everyone, hopefully this is all working very well. Today's stream is going to be all about my most recent release, Higher. It's actually a very old song that I made quite some time ago. I think back in 2017 is when I produced it, so it's actually a little bit outdated. That being said, I'm going to sort of go through it and sort of explain like what I did at the time and what I would do differently now, the kind of sounds I was using, the kind of production choices I made back then, and how the song came to be. I suppose it's time to get into it. Here we are in Ableton. Like I said, this session's a couple years old, and by a couple I mean like maybe three and a half years old. I think now would be as good a time as any for me to just play the song. There it is. That's Higher. So let's get into it. The song is Higher. It's 124 beats per minute. Yeah, so this is a song I started in London back in 2017. I made a trip to London because I wanted to, you know, have a change of scenery. I wanted to get some new inspiration. I wanted to go to a new place. So I hopped on a plane and I went to London. And while I was there, I was very fortunate to be able to have some sessions with some other talented producers and musicians. One of them being Danielle Hall. Danielle Hall was very kind enough to let me come join him in the studio, and we made a couple of different basic ideas for songs. One of them is what turned into Higher. The vocal is another British artist by the name of Elle Devine. It was actually the day after I met up with Danny, and we recorded all the vocal takes, did all the writing in like a 5-hour session. And then I took it home once I got home from London, and I basically over the next few months, 6 months or so, I kind of refined it into the song that we know today. First things first, you know, we got these at the start, these little plucks. Plus layered with this. That is just like a plinky piano coming out of Kontakt, literally like a New York grand piano preset. But then like the cool pluckiness comes from these layers down here. Let's open it up, have a look. So here I'm using the Resonator Zimbira mute accent patch. I haven't really done much to it. Cool like plucky kalimba sound. Then underneath that, we've got this silent patch, which is very just like simplistic, clean patch. Fun fact, Wayfarers invented seventh chords. That is true. That's true. We did a special technique to make the vocals sound as good as they do, which I'll get into in a minute. But this silent patch, yeah, it's nothing special. It's just like, what is it? Some sine waves. There it is if you want to have a look. Nothing special. Bit of EQ, bit of reverb. I did also invent the secondary dominant, and the C in Racer comes from the C major scale that he also invented. That is true. Yeah, so like that plucky sound just continues through the verse. Little bit of like percussion in the background. Here we've got, it's just like a sample, and I've done like velocity automation to give it like that tick, like that drum roll feel. A few little sticks with some reverb on it. These are literally just like side stick, drumstick samples with reverb on them, edited together to make like a percussion loop. Yeah, so the chords, well, let's see, let's have a look. I can't actually remember. Honestly, that's pretty like dead simple stuff. 3-note chords. We've got an inverted C major chord here. So some people, I guess if they were writing chords, they might, if they were doing E in the bass like I've done here, they might actually do this chord, which is an E minor chord. But if you raise that degree up, basically you're inverting a C chord. So you've got all the notes of a C chord, you've got a C, a G, and an E, except instead of the E being the third voice in the chord, you've got it as the bottom voice. So that's called an inversion. There's bass movement, but it's still lending itself to the progression. And then just an F, G. It's a G with some extra spice. So there's a 7th, and there's also the root note of the song, which is C. So we've got like a suspended kind of feel there because there's tension here in the chords. Like we've got this B and the C, which are like two competing notes, but they're both part of the scale. And that's good. You want the tension here because this chord is resolving up to the minor, the relative minor, which is A minor. That repeats. And instead of resolving to the A, we resolve to the C, which is the major tonic. Na, na. So yeah, that's right. We're resolving to the minor, which is the A, but instead of going from the G, we're going from a G sharp. So we've like raised the fifth. It's like a flat 6 or a sharp 5. I'm not sure. Ask someone who studies jazz. And then we've got a major 2. So instead of a regular 2, which would normally be minor, we've got a major 2 here, which is a D major 7 actually. Honestly, what is that? Enough about that. No one cares about that. Like, I don't know my theory that well. I know it, like, how it works in my head, but I don't know how to actually articulate it very well. Anyway, let's continue to the next section of the song. I should probably talk about the vocal. We recorded the vocal at a pitch lower than what you're hearing. So I actually recorded, like, what I did is I took the demo of the song, I pitched the whole thing down like 3 semitones. We recorded the vocal to that. And then when we put the vocal in the proper session, we pitched the vocal up. So that's kind of why it sounds more childish, more feminine. It's the same way that if you pitch up an analog piece of audio, it speeds up. When you speed it up, the pitch is raised.
Sun and the stars now. I never want to see the ground. Don't you let me down, 'cause I'm higher than the clouds, babe. Whoa.
It does add this quality that you can't get from a natural recording. I took the completed vocal comp and I just like, I got one of the O's and I like pitched it up in the sampler thing here and put some MIDI notes, and it's like bending up and down, so yeah, get this cool like stretched sound, which is really cool. The drums pick up here a bit. So another like drum roll, that's just a sample with like velocity automation, some snap samples. So you get like syncopated drum roll with like the accents and the kick. So someone did ask about the bass. 2 of the bass layers are from the Korg M1, which I'll show you right now. The M1, it was originally like a classic piece of equipment made by Korg as like a physical synthesizer slash sampler slash thing. It was in the 80s originally, but this is the plug-in version because I don't have an original M1. So that's what it looks like. There's that classic like do 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 Show Me Love. That uses this organ patch from the M1. That's like the classic use of it. Let's see if I can play it. You get the idea. That is the exact patch from that song. They used an M1 on the original recording. I like it because it adds like a nice thick layer of like, it adds like this extra layer of like thickness and harmonic on top of the bass. So I've got a sub bass layer here. Super low rumbly sub so that it sounds really good on big speakers. But the extra layers on top give it that sort of punch and like extra warmth that you can't get just from a sub. And then in other sections of the song, I've got another M1 patch. Which is a bass guitar patch. But this is a preset that I probably just altered. It's called Killer Bass, I guess, but it's basically a bunch of different bass guitar sounds. And I filtered out the low end and stuff. Like I've done a bunch of processing on it to make it fit in the mix better because we've got the other sub layers and stuff going on too. So yeah, like I'm just drawing from my arsenal of 80s sounds that I have access to and sort of using them in a way that I could make it fit. You can get a taste. Thanks for following, and I hope I do get a taste. Together in the chorus, they sound like this. So that's the M1 on top of the sub bass. So the drums, I really like the drums in this song. Let's play it in the chorus. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there. Like that's the tambourine sound from that breakbeat that everyone uses. It's like the drum and bass kind of breakbeat. And I've chopped up. I've got the break woo, the break yeah, the break snare, and the break kick. So I've chopped up all the different components of that breakbeat and like edited them as like little accents over the top of the main beat. The kick is right here. So we got the kicks and the snares, and we've got our breakbeat samples. Together, they sound like this. Like that's 90% of the drum sound right there. There's also a hi-hat layer down here, which is kind of not really that audible. We've got a, what's that? A 909 crash? Yeah. Metallic hit. Someone asked me before about the FM stuff. This is a sample I made using FM8, which is an FM synthesizer. I don't have the patch here in this project because I made it in a previous project, but this is a sound I exported. Frequency modulation is a type of synthesis where like you have different oscillators modulating other oscillators, and they kind of create these bell like glassy metallic tones, which can be very, very interesting. Like the classic DX7 is an FM synthesizer. That's where you get that classic vibey electric piano 80s sound. And I love FM synthesis. I like adore it. I only use it sparingly because it's so like, it's so intense. It's like jarring, but that's kind of what's cool about it. I love that sound. And that's the same thing, just reversed. So yeah, I like to create sounds and export them as audio, and then I can like use them as audio assets in future projects. Like sometimes instead of making a song, I'll just spend a day like doing sound design and exporting audio samples, and then when I do come to creating a song, I'll have this like arsenal of sounds. Stock Ableton Latin percussion vibra-slap sample, use that all the time. Got some tom fills. Wow, that's so good. Sorry. That's so epic. I love how I chopped the... I don't know why that's making me laugh so much, but that is so epic. It's so over the top. I love it. Let's keep going. So yeah, you can see these tom fills are just like audio samples that I've chopped up. I probably repitched them. Yeah, I've repitched each one as well. You can see I've like got the transpose. So like I wanted to make it go from high to low. So I was like, okay, I'll take these different samples and I'll see which ones sound good pitched high and pitched low. So I still like put a bit of attention into the composition of these fills as well. We got a shaker sample here. Offbeat shaker, always a vibe. Again, made from scratch using white noise. Operator, EQ, very simple. All right, the chords in this song are fun. It's all the same progression basically, except for the build, like the breakdown and build. What is this? So Serum, anyone who's a producer knows what Serum is. One oscillator, saw waves, unison, a bandpass filter with some resonance, bit of chorus and dimension, and that's it. Simple is good, folks. Hey Wave Racer, when you produce a song, do you have the idea already in your mind, or do you experiment and come up with stuff on the spot? The latter. I definitely do the experimentation and coming up with stuff on the spot. Very rarely will I have like a fully formed idea in my head. If I do have that, it'll be like a voice memo that I've recorded of like an idea I had for something, but it's never fully formed. Usually, almost all of my music comes from experimenting with sounds and just like following the idea as it comes. All the synth sounds in this song are pretty simple, really, apart from some of the FM stuff. Yeah, one saw wave oscillator, unison at 5, basic like Moog style low pass filter, some width, EQ, compression, and then LFO tool. Let's talk about the build section. This is actually the part of the song that Danny had the most influence over. Like the chord loop is not in a regular time. Like, let's listen.
Can you take me?
It's a loop of 3, and every loop of 3 it goes up a fifth. So that was like hugely Danny's influence there. He made this like circular thing, like, because it's based on the circle of fifths, so you can like, that's infinite, like you can cycle around the circle of fifths infinitely, and you can see 1 2 3 4 5 6. So it's based in sections of 3 sections of 2 bars, which adds up to 6 bars. And normally you'd be doing things in groups of 8 in a song like this, or in a 4/4 song. So that was cool. The other thing conceptually, which is also part of what Danny did, is like he came up with the concept of like climbing up higher. And this musically is like, it's just a perfect musical representation of that. Synth arps, just like distorted and modulated, like saw waves and serum, with some filtering and stuff. As the second repeat comes around, like there's this added, like, lush. I think what I was going for with the sound design here was deliberately over the top. We go back to the normal chord progression. We've escaped from the cycle of fifths, and we're climbing back up to pop music heaven. All right, this is pretty intense. You need to see that fill? Yeah, I think we all need to see that fill. Let's see the fill. Here it is. Oh, it's pretty good. I'm so sorry. When you isolate the drums like that, it's so funny. We're going straight into the final chorus. We do that classic thing where you take the first few beats out at the start.
Can you take me higher?
Well, I kept them in. I just like did like accented kicks. So instead of coming in with the groove straight away, you like delay it.
Can you take me higher? Take me up and hold me tighter.
And of course, that's a good way to create variation between choruses. So this is like a double chorus. Little outro, which is basically just the chorus again, but with the vocal taken out and some other elements added for some melodic variation. These like violin stabs. Boom, boom. I love this thing. It's this cool like recording of female vocal singing. And I've put it in a sampler and put some glide on it, so it kind of just like loops around and like. And I created a melody with it. It's a really good sound. I use this sound quite a lot. And this sound is kind of creating like a backing vocal type sound. Like oohs and ahs in the back, but it's totally synthetic, which is kind of cool. That's again revisiting the M1. We've got Voices Pad from the M1, which I'm almost certain is just a straight up preset called Voices Pad. Yeah, this is a really cool preset in M1. It's like a fluty, vocally kind of sound, which is really, really nice. And then a similar sound from Omnisphere, but it's also got an added like tingy glockenspiel on top. And then when you lay them together, get a little nice sparkly melody embellishment there. That is higher, guys. I'm quite proud of it. I did mix this one myself, and I'm quite happy with the mix. But I think that pretty much covers it for the song Breakdown. Thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time.